Namibia has condemned Germany's backing of Israel against genocide charges at the International Court of Justice. It says, given Germany's colonial brutalities, that it should not support Israel.
In recent headlines, Namibia's fury at Germans' unexpected support for Israel at the International Court of Justice has ignited a storm of controversy. So why is Namibia challenging Germany so strongly on this position? What happened more than 100 years ago, and why was it forgotten? And what exactly does this have to do with Germany and Namibia's history? It is a sad truth, but few know, let alone speak of it, of the mass murder and policies of exterminations wrought upon by colonial Germany against the Herero and the Nama people in German Southwest Africa and what is today Namibia. But in recent weeks, that forgotten genocide has received renewed attention as Germany declared their intention to intervene on Israel's behalf.
Germany suffers from a true collective amnesia. People either don't know or pretend not to know.
Now, this is the story of the first genocide of the 20th century, the forgotten genocide, and the genocide that was the precursor of the Holocaust. To unravel this complex web, we must journey back to the turn of the 20th century. In 1884, following the infamous Berlin Conference, when the dark spectre of colonialism loomed large over Africa, Germany colonized 4 territories across the breadth of the African continent: Togoland, the Cameroons, the Tanganyika, and a main coastal presence in Southwest Africa, now known as Namibia. Namibia fell under German colonial rule.
After Namibia was declared a colony, German citizens streamed to so-called German Southwest Africa to settle long-term. And they needed land. Lots of it.
Now let's look at the situation before the genocide. In the 19th century, Namibia, a country in southern Africa, was populated by several ethnic groups: the San, the Damara, the Omvambo, Nama, and Herero. The Nama and the Herero livestock farmers were the country's 2 main tribes. And in 1884, Germany invaded the Namibian territory and founded the German Southwest Africa colony. The colonizers' interest increased after the discovery of diamonds. Now, at the beginning of the German occupation, Herero society was estimated at about 80 to 90,000 people. Some 50,000 plus Africans, comprising other tribal groups, created a total approximate native population of about 130,000 to 140,000. Now, by 1903, some 3,000 Germans had settled in the colony, primarily on the central high grounds. German settlers were able to establish lucrative plantations by exploiting the labor of local Herero and Nama indigenous people. What triggered the genocide? Once entrenched, the German minority established a culture of pure labor enslavement. The rights and dignity of the African inhabitants were systematically stripped away. The Herero and Nama people, among others, found themselves relegated to barren deserts, their ancestral lands seized and their freedom curtailed.
German colonialists evicted Herero clans from water points, grazing, and ancestral land.
The launch of this new settler society, albeit still small, disrupted the socio-economic balance of the territory and resulted in conflict. Berlin dispatched a small military contingent to protect white settlers as they confronted the lightly armed African natives.
Military force, the Schutztruppe, protected German settlers and aimed to expand Germany's colonial ambitions, clashing with Herero and Nama groups.
A policy of systemic land confiscation and the arrival of more and more German settlers forced the farmers of their land. In 1903, on the verge of utter dispossession, Nama warriors revolted against the 2,500-strong white community. January 1904, the Herero population, led by Chief Samuel Maharero, carried out a large armed rebellion against the oppressive German colonial rule. The German ruling forces were unprepared for the attack, and approximately 123 German colonial settlers were unalived by the Herero tribe. The 700-plus protection force was overwhelmed. In response to this, the colonial governor called for reinforcements. And over the following months, the Herero were slowly overwhelmed by the more modern, well-equipped German force under the command of Major Theodor Litwin. Now, between 1904 and 1908, German colonial forces unleashed a campaign of terror that decimated over 80% of the Herero and Nama people. Major Litwin had cornered the Herero forces at the Waterberg Plateau and was attempting to negotiate their surrender. The German government in Berlin were frustrated by Litwin's slow progress in dissipating the uprising, and in May 1904 appointed Lieutenant General Lothar von Trotha. In 1904, Berlin dispatched 14,000 soldiers to suppress the uprising. Trotha arrived in German Southwest Africa on the 11th of June 1904. He issued an extermination order. The outline of this new policy, which was announced on October 3rd,
Battle of Waterberg in 1904, General Lothar von Trotha delivered the extermination order. It effectively sentenced any Herero found in German territory to death.
Well, you see, mostly when you hear the word exterminate, you think rats, mice, cockroaches, or humans. To associate human beings with extermination is to consider that human as subhuman, as less than human. So they exterminated these people on their own ancestral land as if they were rats, as if they were nothing. In the early mornings of August 11, 1904, von Trotha ordered his 1,500 troops to attack, standing against an estimated 40,000 Herero, of whom only some 5,000 carried arms, and Herero combatants into a desperate offensive, awaited by the German machine guns. By late afternoon, the Hereros were defeated. However, a weak German flank to the southwest allowed the majority of the Herero nation to make a desperate escape into the Kalahari Desert. And
while fleeing, thousands of Herero died of starvation, thirst, and exhaustion. Others were forced into German servitude and were taken to concentration camps.
In this exodus to British Bechuanaland, which is current-day Botswana, many thousands of men, women, and children eventually died of thirst. In subsequent months, von Trotha continued to pursue the Hereros into the desert, and those who surrendered were captured by Germany were often executed summarily. And by early October, however, von Trotha was forced to abandon the pursuit due to exhaustion and a lack of supplies. And when von Trotha was no longer able to pursue the Herero into the desert, thousands of Herero died from being shot to death, drinking water from poison wells, or from thirst and starvation in the desert. Patrols were stationed along the perimeter of the desert to prevent the Herero from returning to the German colony. Trotha was determined to quickly and completely exterminate these bothersome African natives, leaving the land free for fulfillment of the dream of Lebensraum. Lebensraum, meaning living space, is a German concept of expansionism and Völkisch nationalism. And in November 1904, the German government in Berlin openly overturned General Trotha's inhuman execution order and instead commanded that the surviving members of the Herero population be incarcerated in the concentration camps, with the vast majority of the Africans murdered. Berlin rethought the extermination program. What good was maintaining a colony without the local workforce to exploit? Therefore, at some point, those civilians, Herero and Nama people, and related clans that managed to escape the bullet, cannon shots, thirst, and fiery executions were rounded up and sent to concentration camps. Prisoners endured poor hygiene, little food, forced labor, and medical experiments. Investigators estimate the death rate at 90%, with a mortality rate of 7 to 74%. The conditions of the war were so severe that more than half of all prisoners died within the first year. And between 1905, the southern Nama communities had also risen up against German colonialism and engaged the colonizers in guerrilla warfare. And for the following 2 years, the vast majorities were sent to Shark Island camp. In all, about 75% of the entire Herero population, and some 50% of the Nama population died during this campaign.
A monument here which says that the Herero people died under the mysterious circumstances. These words, it makes me very painful.
The mysterious circumstances refer to the 20th century's first genocide, where up to 80% of all Hereros died in detention and battles with German forces.
And this would make it one of the most effective genocides in history. In 1911, after hostilities had ceased and the extermination policy was challenged in Berlin, an official German census counted an 80% reduction of all tribal groups, about 92,000 dead in the preceding few years. While Germany acknowledged the crimes committed in Namibia as genocide in 2021.
In 2021, Germany finally acknowledged it had committed genocide.
Today, we officially recognize these events for what they were, genocide.
It refused to accept responsibility for reparations. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you for watching and goodbye.